Hey guys, remember last month when I was talking about all the books that appeared in Once Upon a Studio? Well, if you remember the scene with the bookshelf, the book on the very top left shelf is a book called Paper Dreams. What is Paper Dreams exactly? Well, it's a book about the various story people who worked at Disney. And it's a very thick book too, as you can see. Hey, wait a minute. Why doesn't it look the way it does in the short? Well, to answer that question, I bought my copy off Amazon. And I was expecting to get the newer second edition of the book, but instead I got this first edition. And without the dust jacket too. Who goes around stealing dust jackets from books? Give them back! They have writing on them that the publishers neglected to add to the pages. Anyway, as you can see, it's about as thick as The Illusion of Life. But never judge a book by its cover, because this book has 272 thick pages. Most of the book covers the history of the storyboard, up until 1999, when this book was released, and some of the most significant story people who worked at Disney. However, while I was reading this book, I found out that Walt Disney valued his animators more than he valued his story people, because he always felt he could get a story person, or as he'd say, story people were a dime a dozen. This book even goes over a certain sequence from the movie Kingdom of the Sun. Wait, what is Kingdom of the Sun anyway? Well, it was what Emperor's New Groove was originally going to be before it got changed into a comedy. I heard Kingdom of the Sun was originally going to be an epic, with the same tone as Beauty and the Beast. But then again, Pinocchio is also considered an epic. So make with that what you will. Other parts of the book have mostly pictures of the storyboards and story people. While The Illusion of Life was more of a how-to book and a history book for the animation enthusiast, this book is more like a history book for the storyboard enthusiast. And though it doesn't have a lot of how-to stuff in it, it does have some helpful tips. In cartooning, you have to limit yourself in the number of lines that you use. And for storyboarding, you want to get as much as you can out of quick drawings. You must have contact with the audience, meaning there has to be a familiar, subconscious association, meaning that the situation pictured has to have been something that the audience has met with, or felt, or dreamt of once before. If the scene loses contact, the audience will pass it off as silly and meaningless. In animation, story logic can be ignored when necessary. In the opening pages, mostly about that sequence in Kingdom of the Sun, it shows how showing, not telling, can help move the characters from scene to scene naturally. In the closing chapters, it talks about some of the movies that were released in the 2000s, like Fantasia 2000, Treasure Planet, and Atlantis, The Lost Empire. But at the time this book was released, those movies hadn't come out yet. They were still being worked on. Also, if you ever wondered why Disney's movies felt more script-driven in the late 80s and early 90s, that's because Michael Eisner, Frank Wells, and Jeffrey Katzenberg all came from live-action backgrounds, and they insisted that scripts be written before storyboards were drawn. That probably would explain why I felt some essence of an action movie the first time I watched Beauty and the Beast. While this book may not be the storyboard equivalent to The Illusion of Life, it does give some insight on how the storyboard became the mainstream tool that it is today. It even lists a few other books as well. I'll dwell deeper into that another time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want this book republished, let Disney know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.